Welcome to another class. In this class, we are going to be talking about SURD. And first of all, we'll try to define SURD. And after we define SURD, we go to some basic rules involving the operations in SURD. So first of all, what is SURD? What are SURD? SURD are values in square root that cannot be simplified further into a whole number. You can write that down. SURD are values in square root that cannot be simplified further into whole number. What does it mean? We mean, for example, if we say root 2, the value of root 2 is not in whole number. If we say root 5, if you press your calculator, you will get a decimal point. It's not in whole number, so those are SURD. So we have those kind of numbers or those kind of problem in mathematics. So you see that we need to study those kind of numbers into details. So first of all, I would like to introduce the numbers that can be simplified, like the SURD, these square root numbers that can be simplified into whole numbers. For example, if we have root 4 can be simplified into whole numbers. If we have root 9 can be simplified into whole number, that is 3. The next one is what? Okay, the next one will be root 16. Root 16 can be simplified into whole numbers. The next one is root 25. Root 25 is equal to 5. After root 25, the next one is root 36. Root 36 can be simplified into whole numbers, that is 6. The next one after root 36 is root 49. Root 49 is what? 7. After root 49, the next one is root 64. Root 64 can be simplified into 8. After root 64, the next one is root 81. Root 81 is 9. And after that, the next one is root 100. Please, that is equal to 10. Please pause the video and write everything down carefully, because if you understand, if you can be able to master those numbers that can be reduced into whole numbers in terms of SURD, then you are on your way to solving any problem you solve, because any complex problem you will get in mathematics that you will be asked to break down will be mixed with this kind of numbers. For example, they say find root 50. Root 50. We know that root 50, inside this 50, we look for a way to bring out a perfect square from it. We know that if 2 is multiplied, that is, if 2 is multiplied by 25, we will have what? 50, right? So we break this down into what? Root 2 times root 25. We break this down into root 2 times root what? 25. And when we break this down into root 2 and root 25, don't worry, I will explain next the basic operation of SURD. Because we now know that 2 is not a perfect square. But from your table, make sure you write down this table, because we'll be referring to it as time goes on. From your table, we know that 25 is a perfect square. So we write the 2, that is root 2. Then root of 25 is what? 5. So that will be 5 root 2. Simple, right? Alright, so now let's go to the next part of the topic, which is the rules of SURD operation. The rules of SURD operation. The rules of SURD operation. So the first rule is you should understand that root A plus root b is not equal to the overall root of a plus b. It is not the same thing. So for example, if we have root 2 plus root 3, it is not the same thing as root 2 plus 3. They are not equal. They are not equal. Are you getting it? So how do we simplify this kind of problem? When we have root a, we have root a and root b. How do we simplify it? Leave it like that. That is the answer. You can't simplify it further. Are you getting it? So root 2 or root a plus root b is not the same thing as a plus b. Alright, so let's go to our next rule in SURD. Let's go to our next rule. The next rule here is number 2. Root a minus root b also is not equal. If I mean it's not equal, root a minus root b is not equal to root a minus b. So if you see a problem, then you see root 2 minus root 3, it is not the same thing as saying 2 minus 3. If you write it like this, you are wrong. Are you getting it? So make sure you are writing down those rules so that with time we'll be making reference to them. Root a minus root b is not equal to the overall root of a minus b. Now the third rule of SURD you should understand is the rule of multiplication. Now this is where it is possible. Root a, are we getting it, times this bracket enclosure is the same thing as times root b is the same thing as saying a times b. Root a times root b, this is where it is possible, is the same thing as saying a times b. What does this mean? If I see a problem like root 2 times root 3, which means that I can just take only one root, then multiply the two numbers together. That will be 2 times 3, and that will be equal to root 6. And you know root 6 is not the perfect square, right? Let's take another short example to understand this concept clearly. What if we have something like root 8 times root 2? Root 8 times root 2, something like root 8 times root 2. I can as well take one square root and say 2 times 8, that will be root what? 16, right? And we know that root 16 from our table we derived just now, root 16 is equal to what? 4. So you have succeeded in breaking down this problem just using a little concept we have explained from the table. Alright, now the next law we'll talk about is the law of division. Also, root 4, the square root of a, we know when we are saying a can be another number, all over the square root of b is the same thing as taking the overall square root, then hiding a over b under it. So which means that if I say something like root 8 over root 2, over root 2, I can as well say this is the same thing as 8 over 2, right? And 8 over 2 is the same thing as what? 4. So that is root 4. And that's equal to what? 2. So I've just succeeded in simplifying that problem. Now let us go to the last rule of SURD. That is the exponential relationship with SURD. And that exponential relationship with SURD is number 5. The rule states that the SURD of A, that is the root of A, is the same thing as A raised to power exponential 1 all over 2. The root of A is the same thing as saying A raised to power exponential 1 all over 2. Please make sure you write those things down. It's very, very important. It's very, very important. As we begin to see in the next class, when we are solving examples, we'll be making reference to this class. Please make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe. Okay, let me drop one example or two before I round up the class. Okay, let's say we have a question like this. Say simplify root 4 plus 2 root 8. Okay, just a short example. How do we do this? Very simple. We know that 4 from our table can be broken down because the root of 4 is what? 2. So we don't have problem here. So this gives us 2. Then plus, now we know this is 2 roots. We know that 8 is not a perfect square, right? So what do? We know that 8 cannot be broken down into whole number. What do? But if we view 8 very well, we can discover that 8 can be broken down into what? 4 times 2, right? So we expand this to be what? Root 4 times 2. And the law of multiplication of SURD, we know that if we have root 4 times root 2, it is the same thing as enclosing them under one, so that is 4 times 2, right? So which means that this 4 times 2 can be broken down into root 4 times 2. So this is the same thing as saying 2 root 4 times root 2. Remember, the 2 is still multiplying everything here, right? So if we bring these two, we now have 2 plus. Now, root 4 is what? 2, right? So that will be 2 into the square root of 4 is what? 2. Okay, that will be 2 into, sorry for the mistake. All right, so we continue. So we now have 2 into the square root of 4 is 2, right? Times the square root of 2 is what? It's a decimal number, so we leave it like that. That will be 2. So we are almost done with this problem. So from here, we discover that we have 2 plus 2 into bracket 2 times root 2, right? Now 2 times root 2 is what? 2 root 2, is it not? So that is 2 root 2 bracket 2 plus 2. Okay, let me try to wipe up everything here so that we have a clearer picture of what we are doing. Now 2 plus 2 root 2, we say 2 plus 2 root 2. Now 2 multiplied by 2. Note, whole numbers multiply whole numbers, SURD multiply SURD. Keep this down. Whole numbers multiply whole numbers, SURD multiply SURD. Now 2 is a whole number, then the 2 outside is a whole number. So these 2 outside cannot multiply the SURD inside. So it will only multiply the whole number. So 2 times 2 is what? 4. So this is anything as 2 plus. Now since this is 2 times 2, that will be what? 4 root 2. And that is our answer, 2 plus 4 root 2. Or you can choose to simplify it, because we have 2 here, we have 4 here, so we can just bring out 2, right? Then this place will now be 1 plus 2 root 2, right? Because you know, if you multiply 2 by 1, you will get 2, and if you multiply the same 2 by 2, you get 4. So this is our answer. Don't worry, in the next class we'll talk more of some JAMB questions, Y questions, GE questions, and PUSUME questions that are related to this sort. And after that, we're going to our next topic called the rationalization of SURD. Please make sure you watch the video over and over again if you don't understand, and make sure you memorize those tables I dropped earlier. God bless you. Thank you.